I'm excited, Nate. Your optimism that you've had on the previous shows, it is fully rubbed off on me. I feel so excited about this year. I said, oh, just all types of good things are coming. I can feel it. I'm not letting in any bad energy. It's gonna be a good year, guys. How about you, Nate?
I'm feeling pretty good. Like obviously, just because the date on the calendar changes or the hour on the clock changes, it doesn't magically fix everything. But I do feel like, uh, and we can talk about this in a little bit with our guests. Like I do feel like there is power in the symbolism of hope. It might not be something you can touch, but I do think that it feels like maybe just a little bit of the weight has been lifted off of people's shoulders. Not all the weight, but just a little bit. Like we can breathe a little bit, going into this new year. And so, yeah, I'm feeling good, Melissa. Any resolutions for 2021?
I say every year I'm going to stop procrastinating, but it's day two and I procrastinated already. I said, geez, you know what? I'm going to start over tomorrow. Tomorrow I will stop procrastinating.
Your New Year's resolution is to stop procrastinating. You'll get to that in 2022. I feel you on that one. I think for me, it's being more open to new opportunities this year. Because as we saw last year, like nothing is set in stone. Everything can change and ultimately probably will change. But I do feel like being flexible, being adaptable to everything that's going on is something that can help me and maybe help the folks out there.
That's a good one. I like it.
It's something I'm going with. It's something I can stick to rather than like I'm gonna go to the gym every single day because that ain't happening. Like I'm honest with myself, Melissa. That's not gonna happen in 2021.
It doesn't seem like when people try to go to the gym in the beginning of the year, that ever sticks. That's something that you decide, oh, in April, you know what? I'm about to start going to the gym every day. January 1st, it's not sticking all year. I just
No.
don't see it working for anybody. It's the wrong time to fix that.
But how about a resolution here for us to stop now? And I think it's something that our guests can definitely sign off on. And that is, we want to start the process of ending racism, ending human trafficking, righting a lot of these historical wrongs that are going on in the country. And I feel like, Melissa, like we can't do it all in one day. We can't do it all in one year. But something like the show that we're going to do today and just kind of raising awareness and having a conversation can go a long way towards changing people's minds.
Absolutely, Nate. We definitely have to stop racism. Like last year was just mind blowing. And the
Mm.
fact that, now we have, the ability to capture everything on camera the way that we do. And we have, everything's instant with the social media and people are able to spread the news. And we were on the pandemic, so we were quarantined. So the message was spread around a little bit more than I feel like it would have been if we were home. Like, I think that hopefully this awareness, we're going to be going somewhere now. So hopefully, I know more people have opened their eyes. They were a little bit closed minded before, but hopefully, we're going in the right direction. I would hope so.
Yes, I feel like after last year, like there's nowhere to go with up because we can't get no lower.
So, can we introduce our guest?
I think so, JK. We're starting the year off hot, sir.
Hi, Nate and Melissa.
Hey,
Yeah,
happy New Year.
yeah, thank you, and happy New Year to all, and excitement for all. So we always have hope. So we have special guests joining us today, and I have to thank Justice and Lizette.
Sounds good. Yeah, so let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. Justice, we can start with you. Like, can you introduce yourself and let the people know, what you're doing, and also Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you guys as well. And thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Justice. I am the founder and CEO of Justice House of Hope. Justice House of Hope is a human trafficking facility for at-risk youth who has been traumatized, either sexual or labor trafficking. I've been doing human trafficking for probably over 5 years. I first started off working in human services and decided to go into working as an advocate for adult women that was trafficked. So my experience landed me with a social worker job and working in that field and then becoming the CEO and founder of Justice House of Hope. And the reason why I chose to reach out to at-risk youth was because of me as a child who had witnessed domestic violence and also a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. And at a young age, I was sexually assaulted and got pregnant by the perpetrator who traumatized me. And I wanted to be the voices for the children that didn't have a voice, to say we are no longer bonded, we are no longer chained, we are here, and I will be the voice if they cannot speak for themselves, to speak and to help them to get through the trauma. Because back in the time, as when I was growing up, it was a little harder. People didn't believe you. No, that couldn't have happened, not with so and so, the neighbor and all that. But I'm here today to say that human trafficking is real. Domestic violence, sexual assault, and racism is very real, and it's out there, and it's in our backyard. So we have to do something, and we have to say something. So to say something, to do something, is to listen and to learn. So it's an honor to be here today with Stop Now, to be able to give the information that I have to share with everyone that's willing to listen.
So we are glad to have you here, and I love that at point before we bring in Lisette, Melissa, that I think human trafficking and sexual assault and trauma, it affects everyone. But I do feel like specifically when we're talking about race today, like there's something within the Black community where we've got internal and external, pressures going against people that have gone through things like this. And so I think, that's something we can get into a little bit later. So Lisette, why don't you introduce yourself and let the folks know, what you have expertise in terms of this issue.
Well, good morning and afternoon, everyone.
Yes.
I guess Happy New Year's. My name is Lisette London, and I have my own organization, consulting business named Lisette London Global Consulting. I did not want to name it with my name, but they said about this whole trademark thing, they're like, it's better if you put your name. So that's the only reason. Not narcissist, not self-absorbed. So I always have to let people know that first, because they're like, okay. But yes, it is Lisette London Global Consulting. My background is in social work and psychology. I'm finishing my doctorate in international psychology with emphasis in trauma services. And the reason why I wanted to create an organization that incorporates a consulting aspect to it is because I worked with the migrant population dealing with trafficking. I would say just the minority population in general, because I saw a lot of people from other countries coming in who were being trafficked. And so I worked in that field, I would say, for many, many years, and trying to help them reintegrate back into a family dynamic, which is very hard. And then being in the household of other people who were also trafficked or also exploited or sexually abused. And then here you are like, okay, you need to show them a positive way when they don't even know what that is. So I saw that there were so many gaps in the field, in society alone, and especially dealing with trafficking in a minority cross-cultural sense. And I wanted to be able to do something that didn't limit me to being able to talk about what I saw in the field. And that was talking about trafficking, talking about cross-cultural barriers that we see. I mean, I am originally from Panama, so my primary language is Spanish. I'm an Afro-Latina. Yes, but I get, I'm discriminated against two cultures, the Black and the Hispanic, and it's hard. And then how do you talk about that when people don't really talk about it? You only hear it in the Black community because we talk about stop racism, but we really don't hear a lot of it in the Hispanic side because it's all about hush hush. Try to blend in, try to like keep it quiet. And like Justice said, when you say something is wrong, they don't want to hear it because they're like, hey, we don't want to bring attention, blend in. So I wanted to do something with that. And so my organization basically assists or other organizations and individuals who are not only dealing with traumas, whatever triggers they've had in terms of sexual abuse, environmental traumas, generational traumas, and all these things. But I also work with organizations and community centers who are trying to engage the community with a specific topic. So I currently am in different boards for organizations dealing with trafficking in West Africa. So there's a couple of organizations because we see a rise in that, and also bringing them into the U.S. and South America as well, because hired help, so, like workers, and so bringing awareness into that, because cross culturally we talk about trafficking as a no, this is a bad thing, but if you talk about it in another country, they're like, no, this is part of, no, you're working for the family. You're trying to bring us to a better standing. So the conversation is very different. So that's what my organization does in a lump sum. Sorry, it took a long time, but it's just basically all that, talking about cross-cultural traumas and all of that, and talking about these topics.
Nate, Melissa.
Yes, I thought I heard the doorbell.
Yes, just to give an update.
Yes.
We have another special guest as well to join the panel. Her name is Monique Riley. Hopefully, she will be able to come online. Like, she's getting connected.
Okay.
Just to give an update on that.
Okay. Thank you, JK. We'll be talking to Monique momentarily.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Doing good. Happy New Year.
To you as well. Thank you.
All right. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by another awesome guest this week, Monique Riley. Monique, if you don't mind, can you take a minute and introduce yourself to the people out there?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Monique Riley. I'm the CEO and founder of Freedom Youth Family Justice Center, Freedom Youth LLC, and the Bronx Human Trafficking and Domestic Violence Task Force. I'm happy to be here today, and I look forward to speaking to you guys a little bit more soon.
Awesome. And so, Monique, what I was just about to get into, kind of the opening topic for everybody. I think I'll put it to Lisette first in terms of trauma, because I feel like a lot of times when people hear that word, they think of like one big defining event. Whereas I think trauma, and you can correct me if I'm kind of misstating things, but I also feel like we go through little traumas every day. And I think like 2020 was just one big kind of ongoing 10-month trauma for a lot of people. So, we can kind of start there. Like, what effect do you think last year will have on people going forward?
That's a great way to start. I've been telling this to people. What happened in 2020 was we went into the attic, and all the boxes that we've had throughout our lives were, you turn on the light and everything was open. 2020 opened all the boxes that we were hiding throughout our lives. All our little triggers that we like, I don't have time to deal with that. Yes, I was abused. Yes, I was cursed. I was, all these different things that we just didn't want to deal with it. And we were like resilient, and we're going to push through it. Everything we put in boxes, everything popped open. So we as a people, I think as a human race, we have to understand that we deal with trauma. Trauma is inevitable. It happens all the time. We think of it as like, oh no, this is something like a big thing. No, it happened. It can be by the fact that at 9 o'clock, you're used to eating your breakfast. And one day at 9 o'clock, you didn't eat your breakfast because you were like, what's going on? It can traumatize your whole mindset because the routine was off. These little things can happen. So I think for everyone this year, we're all going to be experiencing the residual effects of the trauma that we experienced last year. The COVID-19, the Black Lives Matter, the not feeling safe. Like here, well, I'm in Nashville right now visiting my sister, but they had a tornado in the beginning of last year, and in like January, February, and immediately COVID happened right after. And then you dealt with Black Lives Matter. Then there was the whole where there was a few youths that were protesting that were arrested within the low income community, which is like the main area where it got affected. So that community was like impacted back to back. And so looking at them, they're like, I mean, are we making it? And right now, what I'm dealing with in talking to a lot of these clients is January is coming, the landmines. I think people don't understand that when you get triggered, you are also dealing with triggers and landmines where you're literally trying to walk around so you don't re-traumatize yourself with what you dealt with before. So you're dealing with two things: triggers, trauma triggers, but also landmines. So this is a thing that we're going to be seeing a lot of right now, especially for what we dealt with in 2020.
I think that's a great point, and it's so crazy, Justice. Like all the bad things in 2020, like 2020 was so crazy that murder hornets don't even make like the top 5. Like there was a couple months where we had to be kind of wary of these insects, and so kind of piggybacking off of Lisette's point in terms of this trauma. How do you feel like we can all move forward, particularly in the Black community and in communities of color, moving forward?
Did you ask me that question? I'm sorry.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Okay. Moving forward with all the trauma that the survivors or all the people that have endured, first we're going to have to take a time out and breathe to figure out what we're going to do first or how we're going to handle certain things. Working with some of the survivors that I work with, dealing with the trauma, the racism, and the effect of what's going on in the world now, and dealing with my Latino culture and my African American culture, they're all afraid. So the best thing is to teach them or to show them strength and give them courage to help them to get through these bitter moments at one step at a time. And what I mean by that is we have trauma everywhere, every day, all day. Just like, I'm gonna mess up your name and I apologize, but just like you said earlier, trauma happens every day, and it's what we do and how we handle that trauma to get us to the next step. As long as we're speaking and talking about what's bothering us, and we as people and advocates giving them strength and supporting them dealing with it, I think will be a better 2021. We won't have many suicide, people taking their lives, not sure what to do or how to do, or people that don't even know how to use their voice because they've been so traumatized, and anything would trigger them, like the way you speak. If you speak too loud, if you say something wrong, we walking on eggshell. So the survivors that I deal with, that's all dealing with trauma. And I think when advocating and dealing with all those different things, as long as we give them the strength and the power to let them know it's okay and help them get through it, I think we'll have a better action done this time around.
And Monique, like I feel like, again, this is something that affects everybody. 2020 did not discriminate in the fact that it happened, but I do feel like there were effects that were felt more acutely in Black communities, in brown communities, in communities where it's low income. And so, it's the old saying, when white America catches a cold, Black America gets the flu. And so, just what do you think in terms of moving forward from this in 2021, moving past kind of the pain and the trauma that we all went through last year?
I honestly feel like, we had, just like the woman had just spoke, it's all about providing the resources. It's all about providing the voice and the platform for these individuals, because with our survivors today during COVID-19, it did not discriminate, not one bit. In fact, we found more individuals going into the lifestyle of human trafficking and survival sex because they didn't have the funding. They didn't have rent. They didn't have food. And for much of our undocumented families, it was just horrible. Like they were depending on school lunch, because they don't have food stamps. They can't get this. They can't get that. So that they were very well much hit. They were hit hard. We had to provide food. We had to provide clothing for individuals. We had to provide safe travels for individuals to get into a safe house. So it was really, really hard, especially on organizations, smaller organizations that's trying to do the work. It was difficult for us, but by the grace of God, we were able to get through. 2021 will be better if we will sit down at the table with survivors. And I'm sorry, I'm joined by my husband, Joseph Riley. He also works with our organization. He wanted to add something that's okay.
That's fine. Happy New Year, Joseph. Good to talk to you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, my name is Joseph Riley. I'm board chairman and I'm also outreach director. I see this firsthand because when I do outreach, I do more than just sit at the office. I actually go out there and actually interact with the people, and I try to calm them down a little bit. I'm gonna just add on what we all know this year was very tragic, but I do see a lot of positiveness coming from the trauma, and I've seen it throughout my entire life. One thing that people of color could do, and during trauma, doing anything, is we can adapt. We was able to adapt during COVID-19 and finding ways out of no way, whether it's going to church, whether it's linking up together. What I like to see us do more is listen, I'll just make a point. I've heard people say that the people of color can't organize, they can't come together, and they can't do things structurally. And it's shown. I mean, we see irrational people go out there, and we've seen people, steal things and ravage buildings, but also seen people come together for causes. What I like to see as an outreach person, I like to see people come together every day. Take the fight every day. Don't do it part-time. Don't wait till somebody gets shot. Don't wait till it's a need. Let's do this every day. Let's organize every day. Let's come together every day. That's the only way we're gonna see some real change. Because we see that politicians don't care about us. Even sometimes our own people don't care about us. But it's gonna take people like us to come together to show people that we can organize, that we can come together, that we can make some positive strides to this future. And that's my goal as personally, is to link up with organizations like this one, people who want to just really make some change, and let's make some change. It can be done.
It's action. Behind the sitting down, behind the conversations, behind all of that, we need action afterwards. And that's the part where we're lacking. The organizations unifying and then creating that action. That's what's needed right now for 2021. We already here now. We just got to make sure that we link up, we start organizing straight across the board to be able to keep people safe.
We are the power. Don't ever think that you're lesser than anything. We are the power. We are the voice. We are the ones that make the future.
And I think, like, I appreciate both of y'all for bringing that point up. And Melissa, like, I think what COVID revealed, because one thing that the medical people always told us about, the coronavirus, is it affects those with a pre-existing condition more. And in terms of, we looking at America, Melissa, like, America's pre-existing condition is always been the way it deals with race, the way that it deals with Black folks, the way that it deals with brown folks, the way that it deals with all of these wrongs that is never really kind of been accountable for. And so, like, just thinking about the year for you, Melissa, like, have you noticed maybe, a sense of that unity in that community that they were just talking about, where maybe this can be the year where we start to see actual, real systemic change?
Am I back?
There you go. Look, I couldn't hear you, but it looked like you were speaking some truth right there.
Looks like I touched my mic there. But absolutely, Nate. This year has definitely showed me that, we have come together. I mean, like you said, there were some riots and things happened, and, people were a little bit divided. But I know that there were so many people. I love to see how people came together to clean up after the riots. I feel like they didn't put enough of that, like, on the news, because I know I was one of those people. I don't even live in the area. They had crazy riots. They broke in. I was down there to clean up. I took my broom and all that. There's just little things like that to help the community. And I see that more of that is happening than I've ever seen before. I just hope that it continues, not just because, Black Lives Matters was a hashtag. So I feel like this is something that is going to stick. And I'm just so happy that we have these communities and these organizations like you guys that are out here. I do want to know, do you guys have, like, social media? How do people who are going through, human trafficking and different abuse, like, how are they able to know that you guys are there for them to reach out to? Justice, how about you?
Yeah, we have social media. We have Facebook. We did a commercial. So, like, we're out there. We're on every website, LinkedIn, social media, all those things is out there that we're there. And also word of mouth. We go out in the communities. I go out in the evening times, and I deal with a lot of at-risk youth who has been human trafficked. So I go out and I feed the community, and we just pass our cards out, but we have to be smarter. We just can't get any and everyone a card because that could get the victim into some type of trouble. So we have to be mindful when we're out in the community and when we're working with people who have been trafficked or dealing with domestic violence or sexual assault. So we feed our communities, and they're aware of different things that we have out by doing different things. Giving out haircuts free, it gets our name out. Working with other organizations gets our name out. And I'm so thankful and grateful, even being here today. That's another way that we can bring awareness and get our name out in the community. Working with the community and working with different agencies would allow us to have our name out and about. And the blessing to be here today with these young ladies and their husbands is that now we can communicate with one another, because they might have a victim that might need to get out of the area where they are. I'm in Pennsylvania, so it's like networking, working together with one another, standing, not divided, but standing with one another. And we all can do something to make a change. So if you see something, say something, do something, and let's do this and work together, because I can't do this alone if I don't have any of you guys with me. So I believe just putting the word out and being careful with the words that we put out, because it is a safe house. The facility that my at-risk youth program is a safe house, so we don't go out giving out the direct address and stuff like that, but we work with individuals that we meet in other communities that is aware of us, and we're able to connect through that way and link through together.
Absolutely. I love that thought of that. These are not separate individual organizations, right? We are all part of the community. We are all part of the whole, because it's going to take everybody. And so, to that point, Lisette, how can folks that might be in need, like how can they get in touch with you? Like how can they find you via social media and avenues like that?
Well, I'm in all social media. I feel like I'm an old person because I'm really bad, but I figured out LinkedIn, and that's my strong one right now.
Okay.
But I do have other people handling the Instagram. As I see the Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, but they can go into my website and then go in and contact me. There's a contact form. What I've been doing with organizations who've been reaching out to me, who are, I've been working with a lot of survivors who are opening up their own nonprofits. And so the way they have been contacting me is like, hey, this is the type of work I'm doing. I would love some help. I don't know what I can do, but I'm in the streets helping them. And I'm like, okay, well, what I can provide is the behavior engagement. So you're talking to them, you're building the rapport to them. And then when it's time, I'm that second person you connect them with, so that we can start the trauma assessment, so that we can start the mental health approach to addressing the fact that you want to leave that life. But what does that look like? Oftentimes we're like, no, come out of that life. And then you're like, but then you're not preparing them mentally to the fact that now they're going to be in a space by themselves. They haven't been in a space where it's been quiet in forever. So what do they do with that quiet? And so I've dealt with too many individuals who are like, I can't do this, Miss London. And they go back to that life. And it's heartbreaking because, again, we don't prepare them in the beginning. And so that's one of the gaps that I feel. I am there in the beginning. When you first go in and talk to them, I'm that. You text me, you can call me, you can message me. I am accessible at all times because I do not sleep very well. So I'm up. Hey, it happens. I have a whole organization in Houston that they are out there in working, and they leave out. They're in the field from 11 p.m. to like 4 o'clock in the morning. And they literally text me, hey, I have this young lady, she's wanting to leave, but she just wants to connect with someone just to have a connection. And that's what we do. We have that connection, 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, but they have the that mental health aspect that doesn't look like sit on the couch and let's talk about it, but like, hey girl, I'm glad you're there. Like, you enjoying, what do you need to do? And so we are building that rapport in a very informal way. And that's what I help them. So you can connect with me on my website or social media, whichever one.
Okay, and I love that you brought up kind of the idea of it's not just enough to get somebody out of a situation, because it'd be like if I have a friend that stays in the house all day and I'm like, come outside, man, come outside, and it's the middle of January and I ain't get this man no jacket and he's just outside cold. He's gonna go back in the house because that's what is comfortable for that person. So yeah, I appreciate that thought that you put out there, Monique. In terms of what you guys are doing and how folks can reach out, and if they're in need, if they are in a situation where they're trying to get out of something, like how can they get in touch with you and your organization?
Yes, absolutely. So you can go over to our Freedom Youth website, which is freedomyouthnyc.com, and we have a referral list right on our website. We get a lot of word of mouth. We're on the ground outside most times, and this is where we're finding people through harm reduction. So we're able to reach out to them most times, right, directly. Another way is being able to connect with some of our partner organizations, some of the hospitals that we're connected to. That is some ways that people are connecting with us. Or you can simply just send us an email at info@freedomyouthnyc.com.
I have a topic I want to bring up, but I think it might be it's not going to be controversial, but it might be a hot topic. So Melissa, I'll let you ask a question first, because I want to get an audience time to prepare for this controversy that I'm gonna throw on the table here in a little bit.
This question is, I guess, for all three of you. How was it to start up your organizations? Because, these are situations that people don't always like to talk about. So to be able to start off, was it a bunch of hurdles that you had to go through to be able? Was it a nose, or was it a smoother path? How about
if I might be able to add first really quickly. So for myself, I am a survivor of human trafficking through peer-to-peer recruitment, sex trafficking. For myself, it was more like I felt like God led me to doing what I'm doing. Had no idea how an organization was structured. But I would say in 2018, I lost my job and I was devastated by it. I was working as a teacher, and I lost my job for doing the right thing and just becoming a liability on what I would say to parents if they found out information. So I eventually didn't know what I was going to do. I started an organization based on unemployment had a program called the SEAT program in New York City. And this program will allow someone to basically start their own organization while they're receiving unemployment. I started and I built everything. I kind of got some help through SCORE, but it wasn't easy. And a lot of people didn't take me well. I was kind of like a joke in some sense. But I knew that I had passion behind it, and I knew that I didn't want to see anybody else go through it. And so I decided that I would just educate myself, learn what I could, took a bunch of trainings, and here I am today with 3 organizations. I thank God. We're still growing. We're babies. We're only 2 years old, but we're growing.
Only nothing. Don't do this.
That's a whole toddler. I want you to understand. That's a whole toddler.
Yep.
Well, for me, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I know that sometimes that can be a hard subject to talk about, but me as well, I'm a survivor of domestic violence and also sexual assault. And what drew me into doing this was when I was a child protective investigator. I had a child that came to me. She was about 9 years old, and she was telling me how unsafe it felt being at home, and how her mother didn't believe her. And it was just being a child protection investigator, you have to report all those different things that's going on with the individual. So I had built a relationship with the young lady, and that gave me strength to be a voice because she was afraid to utilize her voice. So through her and through the trauma that I endured growing up as a child, and and having a child through the perpetrator that raped me, gave me strength. With God Almighty gave me the strength to do this. Was it hard? Absolutely. I stayed up many nights trying to figure out what goes where. Education was okay because I went to school. I received the education. I got a degree, but it still wasn't enough because I didn't know the business part of it. So, it was a struggle, but the strength that allowed me to stay and to keep fighting is for those individual youth that I fight for every day. For they won't be that child that's outside on the corner with nothing to eat, or they got kicked out of their house because of their gender or what sex they wanted to be, or even take it one further step because they didn't want to go to church and then they get kicked out of the house, or if they even just get angry at their mom and dad and they can be trafficked. So I'm the voice that the voices that's never heard. So I utilize my strength and my power with God giving me the ability to do these things by working for the voices of the children that won't speak. So it was very hard, and you use a lot of your own money because you work 2 jobs to make sure you can pay the bills here. But it's worth it at the end. If I save one life, I've done my mission. So, and it's my passion. It's just to be there to help, to let them know that, okay, yeah, we went through some things, but just because we went through some things doesn't mean that we can't be who we want to be. And the sky's the limit. We can do any and everything, and don't have that light die, because if that light die, you die. So as long as you keep that light lit and you working for what you want and you have the strength and the power to help others, I think that's what made me stay in my business part and why I want to make a difference with the people that I touch. And it's really, really, really hard when you're working with children. It's a little different when they're older, because I don't know why it's a different. It really isn't no different, because trauma is trauma no matter how old you are. But the kids are the ones that don't have the voice or don't have that parent that can help them because of the addiction that the parent may have, or sometimes I run into my little kiddos that they might have been sold to the drug dealer, so that makes me stay and makes me work even harder to keep Justice House of Hope, because the hope that I have to change someone's life.
And Lizeth?
I guess I'll go. I would say that it was a mixture of hard and just like, wow, thank you, God.
Mm-hmm.
I started it because I was traumatized, and I was dealing with the anger of organizations looking at their staff as a replaceable number. I was tired of feeling as being replaced. You can run me down and then throw me over and then get someone else. And then doing the work that the people are doing, going out there, because I was traveling all over the US to reintegrate traffic victims and work with traffic victims and educate providers about how to talk to traffic victims. And it was just heartbreaking. And so I decided to quit my job and start my organization January 2019. And I have not looked back ever since. It has been a blessing, because anything that I've needed or wanted, God has provided. Like, when you just walk through a good road and like, man, I'm thirsty, and then there's the water right there, you're like, well, okay. And so it was so I can't say that the journey was hard, because I knew that this is where I needed to go, because it was time for me to just get on my own and just to be there for other people. I think it was time for where I can talk to the victims and not have to worry about, I can't say God, I can't say this, I can't say that. I could just say and do what I needed, and by feeling and sensing where that individual was.
Right.
And so I opened the organization, and I was just free. That freedom that you get when you're just like, you have your own and you're able to help the people that you want to help without limitations, without telling you, okay, yeah, but they don't fit in this category. And you're just like, no, that person needs help. I'm going to go and help them. And so it has been great. I have not regretted it. I didn't think, I really didn't think it was going to evolve into what I'm doing now. I was like, I'm just going to stay in my lane and just like consult and just like how social workers should like train and like how you do this. And God's like, nah, I got something else for you. And then you're like, okay. But again, I don't regret it. I love the fact that I'm able to collaborate with other organizations, sitting here talking to you guys and talk about this topic without feeling like, ooh, I need to run it by the department to see. Like, it's just, you know, and so I'm grateful. It has been great. And I can't wait for what this year has in store.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's kind of an overriding theme. I think is that, as bad as last year was, like, there is, you know, hope, and I think that's a good word to have for this year. So now I'll get a little controversial because over Christmas break, my nieces were in town, and so I was talking with the two older ones because the little one was on the computer. So, you know, when she's on that computer, nobody else matters. So I was talking to the older girls, and they were telling me the story about a kid in their class and who's dating who, and I got to have a flow chart to keep track of all these kids. And she talks about one particular boy, and the middle niece says, you know, I don't understand it, Uncle Nate. Why are black men trash? And if I had pearls, I would have clutched them right there. I was like, okay, let's talk about this for a second. And so, you know, me and the middle niece and the older niece, we just kept kind of talking, and they're telling me more about the kid. And the more that they describe his kind of life to me, like, they don't see it, but, you know, I see it. Like, there's a lot of trauma in the story they're telling me about this young man. And so, you know, kind of talking about that, not to absolve, you know, black men of their actions, but I do feel like there is a lot of trauma within the black community, specifically with black men who don't either know how to or don't feel like they can kind of address those wounds so they can heal. And we can start with Monique and Joseph. Like how do you feel about like that question about kind of the trauma that you know, black men specifically deal with?
I'll go first, and then you can kind of So I feel like they come from trauma, like a lot of like their backgrounds, the way they have grown up, down to like just the way that they respond. Sometimes it's just that they didn't have that nurture. They don't know how to be a nurturing. Not all, but some of them just lack that nurture. Some of them just lack the fact that, you know, I don't know. I mean, help me with this. How do you feel? I feel like a lot of black men, they come from that. It's just something that they're born into, you know, because of their mother's trauma, or I don't know.
You know something? In our homes, what I've seen growing up, I can't lie. I had people to nurture me. And typically in a black home, there's not a father there to teach you how to treat a woman, to treat you how to respect, and teach you, you know, manly things. So I relied on my mother and my grandmother to teach me those things. Also, growing up, I seen a lot of domestic violence. When it came to seeing a male that I thought was a positive male, it turned out that he controlled her using domestic violence. When I came to see it from my own eyes, I seen him like physically imposing his will on her instead of like out of respect, using respectful tactics to make, to be evil ground. He overpowered her into things. And some guys see that, and it trickles down from generation to generation. Hey, they'll say, like, in order for you to get your woman to do what you want to do, she got to do this, and this is how you do it. You just put your hand
keep
on
your woman in check.
Put her in check. So a lot of guys do see that, and then it trickles down, and then they figure, hey, if my daddy did it and it was cool, I'm gonna do it too. But the way I was raised by good, positive women, and they taught me. I had a couple of male role models that jumped in and showed me the proper way to treat a woman. Pull out the chair, open the door. And I'm from the South. We had no choice. Like, it was engraved. It was engraved in your skin. If you didn't do it, somebody was there to smack you. So this generation of kids are not raised how we were. You know, my uncle really taught me. He really gave us the etiquette class, like literally every week in our home, how to properly eat, how to not slurp or stuff like that. So, I mean, if we can somehow, some way try to incorporate with our kids today, I mean, it could be a better generation. But as for right now, that's the reason why a lot of our black males are the way they are, because number one, domestic violence, and number two, they don't have their nurturing factor. Oh, I could throw in number three. The daggum rap videos. Every young black man want to be a rapper nowadays, and I think that's a depiction of how they treat women, is to like throw money on them and treat them like trash, go to the next one, or stuff like that. But
so basically a mix of like generational curses. That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they wasn't nurtured or taught correctly, which is what some of our black men are responding the way they're responding.
Yeah.
And see, I appreciate that. And I'm gonna throw in a fourth one as I turn the question. I'm gonna throw in a fourth one as I turn the question to Justice, and I'm gonna say it's no pun intended, but like law enforcement, the legal system, the justice system is another thing that you talk about. Maybe black fathers not being in the home. Well, like there's a reason for some of that. That we are disproportionately policed, and so like when you think about all that, Justice, like how can we kind of help this next generation of black men that maybe are not able to kind of process the trauma that they've gone through?
Well, this is a hard one. I want you to know that, okay? Living in a home where you have two parents and one works in law enforcement, and dealing with having children that works in law enforcement, probation officer, whatever it's going to be, which that's where I come from. With me, and that's how I got my name. With me, it was because we had two positive role models in the household. Now, don't get me wrong. Our culture plays a part too. I'm Dominican and African American. So our culture plays a huge different part with dealing with respect, how things should be. Men are normally taken out of the circle because of not having the nourishment that other boys or men have. But seeing the struggle of them being in jail and using abuse to control someone, not only do men control women, but women can also control men. So it can change either way. Living today and watching society today, watching how our people are from, I'm gonna take it one step back because I'm old school. How people are, we have been splitted all our lives from slavery. We've been splitted. Okay, so by us being splitted, we don't know. So when we have that, we don't know because no one taught us. So most of the time, most women are teaching the men. So the men are not nearly enough being at home because they're so busy trying to provide for the family. So providing for the family, sometimes they have to do certain things to get certain things. So either selling cars, selling whatever to make ends meet. I'm gonna use that word, to make ends meet. We look at our men because their man is trying to provide for us or put food on the table. I look at things a little different because coming from a two-parent family home looks a little different when I'm working with individuals that only have one parent. So what I'm trying to say, and I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, is that we have been broken. Our men have been broken. So our men need to be built to be our kings because we are their queens. We are their bones. We are there helping them to do this together. And I think if once we learn and we teach our young men, before our young boys to be men, because first they have to be boys to become a man. We need to help the men that have been incarcerated for such a long time is how to be a parent to our children. So being able to say that we as a community need to go back and teach some things that we have lost because it have been taken away from us because we have been broken for so long, and to educate one another and how to receive or how to treat a woman and why men are not trash. And I don't like that because we are people, but we might not know. So if we don't know, then we might have to learn how to ask. So if we don't know how to ask, we are not going to learn how to get the help that we need. So we need to help teach the strong men that's out in our community, help teach the ones that don't know. Let's put something in structure, a facility that men can start being involved with men with our boys' lives, because most of the time our boys' dad or their father are incarcerated or dead. The blue jacket boys, I would say, sometimes they could take that control because they haven't been taught how to use that control that they're trying to use or force on us. So I think if we work together and help educate the situation, then we'll be able to change the dynamic and make our boys kings. So
I'm sorry if I can add really quickly, and I agree with you, Miss Justice. Wholeheartedly, I agree with you. You hit it right on the head. Let me tell you, I just feel like sometimes when it comes to trauma, boys don't talk. They don't speak out, and they're told, "Shut up. You're not supposed to cry." I mean, even when I came out of the lifestyle of being a sex worker, at the end of the day, I mean, when I got into a relationship with my husband, my issue was that, you know, when he would show love or be sensitive to me, I would take that as a way of just being like, you know, like, I don't know how you say it, but I was basically like harsh. Like I had a harsh feeling towards men. And so when he would be sensitive, I'm like, you're not supposed to cry. You know, so a lot of times our men are like this because they are told to be hard. And so they have pent up aggression inside of them and they don't know how to release it. So I just wanted to add that on top of what you were just saying, Ms. Justice.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. But that's true because, you know, I mean, I watch the guys in the community that I live in or work in. And they want to make a difference. They want to be different. They want to know how to treat their girlfriend. They're asking, but we don't have enough men to show them. I can tell them anything that I can possibly tell them, even raising my boys. When I can tell them things, but if there's not a man there, if their dad wasn't sitting there beside me, they would never learn that. So I think we just have to go back a little bit and make some changes because our men's are great. You know what I mean? Our men's are kings. Our men's are everything, and our men's can help us to become everything that we need to be. But by working together with one another, like, hey, baby, that don't go like that. Why don't we try this? And working together and helping them understand it's okay to cry. If you don't cry, I got a problem. If my boys don't cry, I have a problem because something's wrong. Because it's okay to cry. That doesn't make you a weak man. I just want my brothers and sisters out there to understand and respect, because respect goes a long way. And when I was saying about culture as well, if you're a Latino, I'm not stepping on all Latinos. I know I'm Dominican and African American. I know they're dominant. We're a dominant people. But when you put two dominant people together, we're going to have a psh. So, you know, we need to learn to work with one another, to talk with one another, understand one another, respect one another. I can argue with you all night long, but when we go in that behind before we go to bed, well, honey, what happened? What is the 10 warning signs? What we need to talk about just before we close their eyes. So we need to be taught that it's okay to be a man and cry, and to be a man and be like, we got power, and be a man to say, I made a mistake, and be a man, I hit you and I'm so sorry, but this is what I'm going to do. So I think if we just continue to do those things, we'll be an awesome culture together. United we stand, divided we fall. So
yes,
together.
I appreciate you for bringing that up, Justice. And Monique, absolutely. Like, I think the point that you made about there is kind of this stigma, you know, with men in general, but particularly when you talk about Black men and brown men, that we can't show these emotions, that we can't be sensitive. And so, you know, Lisette, I think, you know, speaking from my experience, like I'm somebody, and I've talked about this on other shows that I've done, so I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I was somebody that, you know, was abused when I was younger. And from the age of 10 to probably about the age of 30, like all that stuff was kind of stuffed down and buried. And so, like, I wouldn't classify myself as trash, although there might be some women out there that would disagree, but I was certainly probably, you know, selfish and manipulative and closed off and things of that nature. And it wasn't until, you know, going through therapy and talking about it that I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can see all this now. So how do we get our young brothers, you know, to that point, Lisette, where they can kind of be open with their emotions, where they can kind of, you know, because I don't think that they can be good to anybody until they're good to themselves first.
I think the first thing is we have to address the hurt. You know, we often want to do the let's fix this, let's but let's talk about why you're hurt. And I think that that's the problem. We skip over the most important thing, where we ask, hey, what's going on? And they tell us why they feel this way. A lot of the things, so I was writing down information as Ms. Justice and Monique was talking. And one of the thing is, because I've had this conversation before, and it's about transgenerational trauma. Right? We hear it. I don't know if people understand it much, but the transgenerational trauma is very real. And you can't be a healthy person if you don't address the traumas that you are experiencing that was brought to you just by you being born, right? Be the triggers that you're facing because the way you were raised by individuals who are raising you the way they saw how they were raised, right? They're like, no, we're gonna do better, but in the end, they're still doing the same thing, right? So here you are being in the middle of transgenerational trauma, and then you're teaching, how do you teach a Black man, to be a respectful man, to be a caring man, to be an emotional man, to understand that everything is okay, when generation to generation, all you see is that's not okay. How do you do that? You can't do that unless you talk about it. Say, listen, I'm trying to do my best, right? The reason why we're having a difficult time reaching to you is because we don't know how to do this. Be transparent, be honest. Listen, I don't know how to do this because our history as a people, we were separated. Men and women were separated. The men were beaten in front of the women and degraded in front of the women, right? And the women then has to, like, they go to work and the man comes home, and then the woman had to make sure that this man still feels like a man, but he is so hurt, he is so angry, he's so frustrated, right? So the woman now has to raise a king, right? Because Ms. Justice said that we need to lift him up to be a king. But again, that's not our job. That is not our job. And I need women to understand this. Please don't come for me on no social media. I will tell you the same thing. I think that it is not our job to lift the men to be kings. Our job is to make sure that we ask the question, babe, why are you hurt? Let's talk about it. My job is not to make you feel like you're a man. My job is to be there so you understand why you're not feeling like a man. I think that this is the questions that we have to ask. And so another thing that I wanted to bring up is the skills. I think that is very important as women, as mothers, as sisters, as uncles who are raising men, or other just mentors in general, is that we need to adapt to understanding the importance of having healthy, holistic skill sets for our people. What does that mean? That means, okay, let's talk about self-regulation. The reason why men, we see a lot of domestic violence, we see a lot of abuse in general, is because they don't know how to self-regulate, right? They've seen so much abuse. They feel the emotion. They know that when I saw my uncle, I saw my father get to this point, he did this. So they're literally replicating the emotion, everything they're seeing. Why? Because no life skills were given, no skill sets were given. So if I'm dealing with this, let's talk about self-regulation. Let's breathe through this. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about therapy. The fact that you've gone to therapy, Nate, I mean, that alone breaks some huge stigma right there. Black male therapy, huge, right? But talking about it, this is stuff that we as a community, a Black and brown community, is a huge stigma. Going to therapy, talking to someone, that's huge. They don't want to do it. But again, that's where we draw the life skills. So until we can get the individual to the couch, what we need to do in order for them to feel like a man, to feel like, to address the hurt that they've experienced throughout their life, is let's talk about it. Ask the questions. How are you? How are you doing? What's going on? Listen, I sense that you are upset and angry at something that I did or said or done, right? I don't know what it is. Before you cuss at me, because I will cuss you out, let's talk about it, right? Let's address it. Let's, right. and go from there. There's so there is so many information right now about transgenerational trauma in the Black and brown community. The research is out there. We need to be more educated in that. I think that is the part that we're missing in terms of how to address the traumas that are passed down, the triggers that they're feeling right now. COVID-19, we saw so much domestic violence. Excuse me. I had so many of my friends calling me like, girl, I just had to remove like 4 kids from the home because a mom and dad were going at it. Like, I had these type of calls throughout, and I was having to support them for the work they were doing, but why they were doing it, because all of the stuff that was going on. When you are experiencing an environmental trauma that is impacting you on the outside, right? The external, the internal you is like, I can't deal with this. I'm going to do what my default. And what is my default? Right? Yelling, screaming, throwing, kicking, punching, whatever. So COVID exposed a lot of internal traumas because of the external traumas. And so how do you deal and heal that? You talk about it. Let's start talking about it. And so I just wanted to say that life skills and talking about it. I will go into a whole rampage about this.
I have one statement that I want to make. I feel as though it's nothing wrong with helping someone that don't have the skills, or a lot of our black and brown men and women, because of culture, don't go and receive counseling. So when I utilize the term is helping or supporting our men and what our jobs are for, I think it's a little different once again, because culture, religion is a little different and everyone have a different opinion about certain things. But foremost, there's nothing wrong with helping your partner to understand what's going on. And I just wanted to just make sure I just clarify that, because I believe if I have a partner and they're having a bad day or whatever, sometimes certain people can't talk right then and there. Some people need that. Let me go back.
I don't like that. I'm one of those people. Like you were saying, Monique, like initially when I was with my person that I'm with, he's like the nurturer one. I'm not. I wasn't like that. So, he could be more on the emotional side and, talk about feelings. And I'm like, why do you want to talk about that? Like I would be a little irritated, a little bit rude. We say that we want men to be, more talkative and be, express themselves and that they can cry, but there's a lot of females out here that aren't for that. And I know that I was one of them, and I know a lot of them that are like that. So it's like, we want men to be more open, but at the same time, there's a lot of us, especially Black females, that we really have to be more open and understand that they have feelings too, like, because I'm way better now, but
well, I guess it's like Lisette was saying, like, we're all, like, not just Black men but Black women, like, we're all dealing with like the echoes and the, not to use this imagery, but like the chains of our ancestors. And it all goes back again, like Justice was saying, like, it's to the beginning, right? Since we got here, there's been, whether it's social factors or economic factors or, law enforcement or, just trying to live, right? Just trying to make it day to day, that there's a lot of trauma that's unaddressed in the Black community. And I feel like, like it's not just on Black men, but I do feel like there's something particular. And, speaking from my experience, like I've had very supportive people in my life, but it didn't change until I was ready for it to change. And I think that's something where it's like, like there has to be kind of this moment where the individual is like, this can't be life, right? Not to steal somebody's song lyrics, but this can't be life. Shout out to Scarface. But
wrong. They have to realize that something needs to change. Like, there's a lot of people who feel like, oh, I'm fine. Like, I know I was like, okay, it's his problem. He's too emotional. He needs to figure that out. And it was me. I needed to get that together. So,
yes, I agree.
A lot of people need to realize that there's a problem here, and it just, like, generational. That's just how my mom is. That's how my grandma was. It just kept going. It went for a long time, and I don't want my daughter to be like that. So I realized I had to put a stop to that. Stop now. And, so I'm in my own therapy. 2020, like one of you said, this year, it brought everything back. Lisette, like, everything just like came out the box that I tried to like put away for the longest time. And it was like, I have to deal with this now, or else I'm going to completely lose my mind. So it was like, this year has really brought some real self-awareness to me and a lot of other people with mental health. Like, things that you thought that you didn't have an issue with that you really do, especially in the Black community. I'm so happy that so many people are coming to this realization so that things can be better. We can do better. We can come together and things can get better from here.
And without being shameful, because in our color of skin sometimes make us like, well, you must have some type of mental health issue because you want to go see a counselor or a
Mm-hmm.
therapist, and it's none of that. It's self-help. It's self-help. You need that self-help, that self-care. And I push that a lot because I believe that our men, and I'm going to continue to call them kings because I'm definitely a queen, that they definitely need that support and that help to get help with the help that they need the help with.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I'm sorry, can I jump in?
Yes.
I wanted to say something. I think that as Melissa was saying, we as women, women had a hard time dealing with emotional men. We want a man that's emotional. We want a man that's be open, be transparent, babe. I just want you, and then they are, and you're like, whoa, this is too much, right? And I think that the issue at hand, and Melissa kind of hit on it, but I really wanted to emphasize it because 2021, a lot of us are going to be having to address this as women and men because our trauma boxes are open and we are completely raw and open right now. And we need to be able to understand that the two people who were not comfortable with emotions or wanted emotions, are going to have it in their face at all times until you address it, right? You're going to have to address the, okay, you want to cry because of what we just saw. Okay, I understand this. You saw yourself as this Black man on the ground. So we are going to talk about this together and we're going to cry about it together. Or you can cry and I will hold you. There is nothing wrong about these things. And I think that last year, in 2020, the thing was that when all these things were happening, our people, right, our Black and brown community were like, I'm feeling this. I'm experiencing this, and I cannot breathe. Like I'm watching this, and I'm miles and miles away, and I cannot breathe. And there. Is there something wrong with me? What's going on? Why am I feeling this way? And I had a talk about a couple months ago, and one of the things that I brought up was the reason why we as a people felt it from miles and miles away was because, again, our boxes were open, and the things that we've experienced throughout our life, everything was dumped on us, right? And we saw ourselves as that woman in their apartment, as that man on the floor. And in 2021, we are coming in very raw, right? Very emotional, ready for a change, but still hesitant because they're like, I don't know how much more I can take. And I think that this part that we're in right now is the part where we have to interject and implement a life skill, a let's talk about it, a let's meditate, let's breathe, let's communicate with one another. I know the stigma about mental health is huge in our community, but we did see a huge dip because people were experiencing too much and they're like, I don't know what to do. Okay, people have been talking about talking to someone. Let me just see and try it out, right? And that's how a lot of people went running to see a counselor. Not because they wanted to. They were like, I saw and heard that it worked, so let me see, because it was just too much. So
it's
this year,
not to interrupt,
okay,
but
go ahead.
it's almost like, and I think maybe the two are tied together, but it's almost like Black folks' relationship with the doctor and the medical community. Like so many people, like I know my aunts and uncles, like they'll wait to the last minute, to get something checked out because they don't want to go through, finding out what may or may not be there.
What I already know, I don't want to go over there. I self-medicate a lot because I know what it is. I have a problem with that too. I understand.
But we wait and because in our minds we put the worst possible scenario, like, oh my God, I know they're gonna find cancer. I know, and all it is you just got a cold or something. But you waited and waited, and it manifested as to this huge thing that now you have to take antibiotics when all you had to take was Tylenol. the thing about it is, it's like, don't let it get to a point that it gets so big where you feel heavy, where you cannot breathe, where you literally are walking and trying to do your normal life, and you are unable to communicate and relate to others. It affects relationships. So a lot of our traumas, right, affects the way we engage. This is why we see a large number of individuals going into that the trafficking world or that sex world, right? Because they're like, this is too much. I just need someone to take care of me. I don't know how to do this, right? There's some individuals like, well, this is the best. This is all I know, right? I'm just going to stay in this world. Or, you know, like, we have these things. I have an individual right now who's we're literally going back and forth about whether or not she should go back into this world. And I'm like trying to give her all the things she's done. And she's like, listen, I get it, but what we went through was hard. Like, for me to figure out how to feed my children, how to pay bills, how to do, like, it was just too much. I just want someone to take care of me. I just want someone to like understand my emotions. And I can't even be mad at that, right? We can't even be mad at that, because those are emotions that are valid, but the choice is not, right? So how do you separate these two things? And this is where we have to do, is by talking about it helps us separate the good skills, our good choices against what resiliency is when we choose. It's the resiliency of we choose and breathe and do yoga, or we do resiliency to pick up drugs and have, like, you know, there's two paths to resiliency. Which one are you choosing? And that's what we got to talk about.
And Monique, I want to bring this to you because I feel like when you look at 2020, when you look at just kind of not even 2020, like, right, why limit it to that? When you look at the history of Black life in America, I feel like a lot of it has just been about survival, right? A lot of it has just been about making it to the next day. The good times song, keeping your head above water, you make a wave when you can. And so how do we get from a survival mindset to a mindset where we can go beyond that, where we're not just living, but we're actually having a fruitful life?
I think just speaking from my own self, it's a decision you have to make. But not only that, it's what you're introduced to. So I always tell people a little bit about my story, being a survivor of human trafficking. It happened to me at 12 years old, where a 13-year-old got me involved in human trafficking. Her mother was sending her to school basically to bring other young ladies out. When I got out of the lifestyle, I had been taken from my mother, put into ACS, which was worse. I AWOL'd from there, went back to the girl's house, was trafficked up and down New York City, Pennsylvania, Mount Vernon, all of these different places, by the mother and this young girl. When I got out of that lifestyle, I landed myself in Florida. I was 14 or 15. I decided I was going to get my life back on track. I got introduced to music and band. I don't know if you know, the South is known for band and football. And in New York, they didn't have that. So I was really excited about that. It opened my eyes to that. But when you're a victim of human trafficking or any form of trauma, your mind kind of has this repetitive mindset where it's like something click in your head. And for me, anytime I was in lack or in need of something, like that little button said, click, I can go get it the best way I know how. And that happened to me, I would say, from 14 and a half all the way to 17 when I found out I was pregnant. At 18, I had just gave birth to my child. And I'm going to come into answering the question now. At 18, I had just gave birth to my child. And I went to my mom, I was like, "Ma, I need diapers for my baby." And, she's Jamaican. So she was like, if you want to, you got your own woman, you got grown woman, go out there and get your money away. Whatever. Long story short, I ended up getting back on a line that I knew of from the young lady and her mother. And I was just going to go make ends meet the best way I knew how, survive, right? And so the guy on the other end, I'm going to get very transparent. So I apologize right now for my transparency, but I'm always an open book and I want to be able to tell people, because I think that's another way to help people understand. So I called the guy. The guy said, "Oh," because the baby had cried. He said, "Is that a baby that I hear in the back?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I have a proposition for you." And I said, "What?" And he said, "It would lead way to more money," because he was going to only pay me $200 and he went up to $400. his proposition was for me to bring my child with me while he laid with me drinking and have him drink my breast milk and my child watch him. So I went off. I'm not gonna lie, I cursed him out real bad. You know, I tried to report him, I tried to do all of that. But the end of the day, it took me to really make up my mind then. I was already tired. I was tired of living the life. I was tired of surviving this way. And I didn't know any other way. I know there's jobs out there, but I had no skill set, nobody to help educate me, nobody to turn to, no organization that intervened in my life. And so at that point when I was ready to just like give in, cave in, you know, I decided that they had a 24 college credit program at Monroe College. And Monroe College, when I went to this program, I was accepted, you know, to get my GED and my associate's degree. It changed my world. It changed my life. Sometimes you just need a change of atmosphere, a change of something that's going to show you something different. And that was that for me. So you have to make up your mind first in order to be able to survive in this world, and make a sound decision that's going to be for the best for you, and not just going to tear you down and put you in that repetitive cycle where the switch go click and you're doing the same thing you used to do.
I appreciate you, for sharing that, Monique. And I think like that is very applicable, like to a lot of people. Like they might not be in that same exact situation, but like there's a lot of people out there that I think are just tired, right? Like they're weary. They feel beaten down, not just by last year, but by maybe the last 5 years or the last 10 years. And so, when you think about just kind of getting to that next thing, like it might take change, and change is hard, right? Like we saw, like last year, like there were people that were angry about putting a piece of cloth over their face, right? Like there's some people that were just mad about something small like that. And but I feel like for our people, right, for our community, like sometimes it does take that catalyst. There's like, I can't do this anymore. If not for myself, for my kids, for my family, for my community, we got to do better.
Sorry to interrupt. I think we can go on forever, and you all are so wonderful. And Monique, I don't want to cry, so you are so brave.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate.
Like we could be here all day because we still got it. We still like, Melissa. We only scratched the surface on this racism.
Right.
Melissa, it's
a couple times, guys. Y'all saw me take a drink of water. Like I was getting a little emotional here because this has been an empowering conversation, but at the same time, JK, I do not want to cry, but I appreciate you guys coming on and doing all that you do. Like the community needs this so much, and you guys are all so wonderful for doing this. Thank you so much. And I'm going to find you all on social media today, and I'm going to connect with all of you because I want to find out how I can help more from where I'm at. Like you guys are just wonderful and very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Melissa, you're already doing that. By having us here and spreading the word is the beginning of it. I just want to say to everyone that's on the panel right now, thank you for sharing. And this is Human Trafficking Month, January. It is. So it was an honor for me to be here today. But I think we all are going somewhere with our statement. And I think we all have a powerful voice. And I thank God for giving us that voice for us to continue to fight, because trauma will have you down and out. And the blessing is to receive, is to get out of that. So just like Miss London said, we have to get out. We have to go we got to get started, and we already seem like we already started. So, we're continuing to fight this fight. And like I said earlier, this fight could not be won without all of you guys being a part of it. And I just want to thank you guys for allowing me here today to be a part of this.
Absolutely. I think, one of the things is that you're talking about there is last year, like maybe you got to get to a point where things cannot continue the way they've been. And I think if there's any positive from last year, it's that a lot of stuff was kind of laid out there on the table, whether you're talking about, the government or systemic racism or problems within our community. And there's a lot of stuff that was kind of put on Front Street. And now, maybe Lisette, like now that it's out there, like nobody wanted it to be out there, maybe folks had it up in the attic, like you said, but now that the boxes are open, we can actually start to work on it.
This is I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be here. And I think, yes, we can no longer put these boxes back in the attic. The emotions are out and the wounds are exposed. We can't put them back. This is the time that we have to address it, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to be able to talk to Melissa, Miss Justice, Monique, and you, Nate, about, and Monique, your husband too. Great points. Tell him amazing. Because oftentimes we don't hear from Black males and it's very important. But I wanted to say that this is exactly the type of panels that we need to start having out, and just having this conversation. When we normalize it, when we talk about it in a very comfortable space, it opens up the ability for them to just be open and raw and say, oh, okay, so we can have this discussion, because oftentimes people don't even know how to do this. I like what the Red Table has been doing, because a lot of people didn't know that they could just sit down and have a conversation about a topic, so thank you again for having this conversation and for inviting me on your first podcast or video cat. I don't know. Again, I'm old. And for the first of the year. So thank you again.
No, thank you. And then I real quick, I want to go around the room and we can stay with you, Lizette, because we do want to give our viewers out there, like if they might be in a situation where they need help, like how can they contact you again? Let out all your contact information, and we can start with you.
Oh, okay. Well, you can, again, don't come for me, but my website is Lisette London Global Consulting. And you can literally just go into the contact information. It is the same as the website, as the social media for Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And you can find me again on YouTube as well, is on there. I started the podcast. I'm doing interviews with different people, and I haven't like officially published it because I want to be able to publish a lot, like 30. And right now I'm at 20 interviews.
Okay.
But I'm doing a podcast as well, just having conversations with individuals about just regular small topics that we saw last year. My email is info@Lisette London Global Consulting. And also, if you go into the website, you'll also find either a calendar to do a conversation, like just talk to me, set up a meeting, or and my phone number as well for the business is there. So you can either text or call, and I respond within 24 hours. So.
Awesome. Definitely. Like I said, if there's somebody out there that's watching this that might need, that first step, that's definitely a good resource for them. Justice, before we turn over to Monique for a second, Justice, where can the good folks out there, contact you if they in a situation where they're ready, to take that step and make that change? How can they get in touch with you?
Sorry. Even if they're not ready and they just want to have someone to talk to, or they might be afraid or not sure what to do, there's always a human trafficking 1-800 number, and I'm going to share that. And that number is 1-888-373-7888. That's the hotline for human trafficking. For them to get in contact with my organization, the name of the organization is justicehouseofhope.org. On my website as well, there's a page there if they just want to talk or have a meeting, or they just want to have someone to go to the doctor with them, anything that they might need or want. If they need care packages, if they need food, we also supply all those different things for them. Take them to doctor's appointment that they don't have to pay for. All those services is absolutely free for them. And once again, that's with my LinkedIn, my Instagram, my Facebook, as well, is all the same, justicehouseofhope.org. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm definitely going to be reaching out to you ladies, because I believe that you guys have some information that I'm really interested in, and maybe we can work together on different things to make sure that we allow for all our survivors to stay survivors, and support them as well. And thank you guys once again for having me here today.
Awesome. Thank you. And Monique, like any final thoughts, and also like where can folks get in touch with you if if they need help out there?
Absolutely. So my email is https@freedomyouthnyc.com. So you just put in freedomyouthnyc.com and you'll be able to connect with us. Our number is 929-367-4754. And you can also reach out to us by email, info@freedomyouthnyc.com. On Facebook, you could just look us up as Freedom Youth Family Justice Center or Freedom Youth LLC. Or the Bronx Human Trafficking and Domestic Violence Task Force, and also on Instagram, FY Family Justice Center. And then really quickly, I just wanted to add to you guys concerning the COVID-19. It's super important as we are all threatened still for the close down or close up rather. And so we want to make sure that you guys are knowing that individuals who have been propositioned by their landlords or roommates for sex, this is an issue. If they are, please get in touch with your local legal team or the mayor of whatever you guys are staying at, whatever state you're in. Do not keep that, on hush, because we did a survey with NYU and New York University, and 64% of the women report having been propositioned, by their landlord and roommate for sex. We had 95% of our women reported being a survivor of recent intimate partner violence, and 53% of them, those women were reported to have reported. I'm sorry, the abuse was worsened by 53%. 40% of the women currently living with their abuser reported that they were living with their abuser solely due to the shelter in place order, which means that a lot of our people who were being hurt and harmed were doing this, were actually at more risk during the COVID-19 lockdown. 5% of the women were engaging in survival sex since the pandemic started, and an additional 40% of the women were engaging in survival sex before the event happened. Food insecurity, poverty, and unemployment, and mental health was alarmingly high. And I'll send you guys the rest of the information by email.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I do feel like a lot of people are focused, rightfully so, on the health concerns with COVID, but there's a lot that goes along with it that people might not see day to day. So I got some bad news and some good news, Melissa.
Is it that time, Nate?
It's about that time. But look, the bad news is, unfortunately, we didn't end racism or human trafficking today. We couldn't get it done in 2 hours. But the good thing is, I feel like we laid a foundation for a good conversation where, some folks out there, particularly, if there's a viewer out there that might be going through a situation like that, there's hope, right? And I think that's the word for 2021, Melissa. I don't want to get sued by Barack Obama people, but there's hope. We can hope and make some changes in 2021, my friend.
Absolutely. I am very hopeful this year as well, Nate. I see some good things happening. Thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Yes,
Monique,
thank you so much.
As well. Just thank you so much, guys. And please make sure everybody that's watching, follow everyone. Follow Stop Now. Go to our YouTube page and subscribe. And we'll see you guys later.
See you next week, folks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's.
Wash your hands. Wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
6 feet apart.